Hi there, and welcome to the Okey's crochet tutorial for creating your very own dino. My name's Haley, and I'm so excited to start crocheting with you today. To make this adorable dino, the stitches you will need to know are a chain, single crochet, increase, decrease, and our magic ring alternative. If you're new to any of these, don't hesitate to go watch the tutorial videos above this video or on our tutorials page. If you're using the Okey's crochet kit, you will need your crochet hook, some yarn needles, stitch markers, both colors of yarn, 2 safety eyes, and the stuffing. Little disclaimer just for this whole video, we ended up losing some parts of it, had some technical issues, so this video was filmed several times in several different days. So just a little disclaimer about that. But let's get started.
All right, we got all of the parts of our dinosaur made. Now it's time to move on to the body. All right, to start the body, we're gonna start with our magic ring alternative. And we're gonna do 12 single crochets. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, go ahead and place your stitch marker in the first stitch. All right, for round number 2, we're going to be moving on to a single crochet and an increase, and we're going to be doing that 6 times around. So single, increase number 1, single, increase number 2, single, increase number 3, single, increase number 4, single, increase number 5, single, increase number 6. All right, move the stitch marker up. Round number 3 is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase, and we're going to repeat that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 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 increase. Move the stitch marker up. Right, round number 4, we're going to be doing 3 single crochets and an increase. And we're going to repeat it 6 times. So 1, 2, 3 single crochets, and our first increase. 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase. Move that stitch marker up. Right, round number 5, we're going to be doing 4 single crochets and an increase, repeating that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 1. If it ever gets stuck and you can't get your hook through a stitch, just restart that stitch. There we go. And then just keep going. It's perfectly fine to have to restart a stitch or restart a round, whatever you need. Two, 3, 4, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, increase. Move the stitch marker. Alright, round number 6, we're going to be doing 5 single crochets and an increase, repeating that 6 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase. 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 All right, move the stitch marker up. Round number 7, we're going to be doing 6 single crochets and an increase. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, increase. 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 Move the stitch marker up. All right, for rounds 8 through 13, we're just gonna be doing single crochets all the way around. So you should have about 48 every single round. All right, round 9, same thing. Yeah, round 10, same thing around. Round 11, 48 single crochets. to round 12, same thing. All right, round 13 is going to be our last round of the 48 single crochets. Move the stitch marker up.
right, round number 14, we're going to be doing 6 single crochets and then a decrease. I'm going to be doing an invisible decrease, but feel free to do whatever kind of decrease works best for you. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then our invisible decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 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 decrease. Move the stitch marker. All right, round 15, 5 single crochets and a decrease. We're going to repeat that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, decrease. 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 Move the stitch marker. Round 16 is 4 single crochets and a decrease. We'll repeat that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease. Move the stitch marker. Right, round 17 is going to be 3 single crochets and a decrease, and we're going to repeat that 6 times. One, 2, 3, decrease, 1, 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 2, 3, decrease. Move the stitch marker. Round 18 is going to be 2 single crochets, a decrease, and then 2 more single crochets, repeated 4 times. So 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, 1, 2, decrease, 1, 2, 1, 2, decrease, 1, move the stitch marker up. All right, round 19, we're just gonna do 20 increases. So just an increase in every single stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, All right, move that stitch marker up. And then before I go any further with the body, I like to add the safety eyes onto the head first, just so we don't have to try and go through as much yarn. So what I like to do is place one eye in first. I kind of place it in the middle of our rounds of single crochets, but you can place the eyes wherever you want. And then once I get the first eye on, then I like to decide where I want to place my second eye. With the dino, I normally like to see 6 stitches in between. So normally you'd place them about 8 stitches apart. That's normally what I like. Again, do whatever you want to do. And then we're just gonna add a little bit of stuffing to the head. We're not gonna fully stuff it yet just because we want to still be able to add more if we need more. We don't want to overstuff our dinos. So go ahead and just kind of tuck some in there, really get your fingers in there and make sure you push all the stuffing to fill in all the edges. We want him to have a nice full head. All right, and then once you get a decent amount of stuffing in there to start, you can add as much or as little as you want. It really doesn't matter because you're gonna keep adding, you're gonna stuff the body and move it to the head. So just do whatever you wanna do for right now. All right. Once that's done, we're gonna move on to round 20. And for rounds 20 through 26, you're just doing 40 single crochets around for all of those rounds, building the main part of the body. So let's go ahead and get started on round 20. All right, round 21, same thing, 40 single crochets. Right, round 22, same thing.
Round 23, we're doing the same thing still. Right, round 24, still 40 single crochets. 25, we're gonna do the same thing. All right. And round 26 is going to be our last round single crochets around. All right, round 27, we're gonna do 4 single crochets, a decrease, and then another 4 single crochets, and we're gonna repeat that 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 4, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Round 28, we're going to be doing 2 single crochets, a decrease, and then 2 more single crochets. And we're going to repeat that 6 times. So 1, 2, 'decrease, 1, 2, 1, 2, decrease, 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 1, 2. Right, round 29, we're going to be doing 3 single crochets and a decrease. We're going to repeat that 6 times. 1, 2, 3, decrease, 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 1, 2, 3, decrease. Right. Round 30, we're doing 2 single crochets and a decrease. So we're going to repeat it 6 times. 1, 2. At this point, I'm moving over to just a regular decrease because at this point it kind of gets hard to do an invisible decrease with less stitches. So, but again, do whatever decrease you feel comfortable with. One, 2, decrease. 1, 2, decrease. 1, 2, decrease. 1, 2, decrease. Right? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stuff the rest of the dino body before the hole gets too small to fit the stuffing through it. So we're just gonna go ahead and add all of our stuffing, making sure not to completely overstuff the dino. All right, round 31, we're gonna do a single crochet and a decrease, and we're gonna repeat it 6 times. So single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease, single, decrease. All right, round 32, we're just gonna do 6 decreases. So I'm just gonna take my stitch marker out. Okay. So we're just gonna go 1 decrease, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, go ahead and leave a bit of a yarn tail. Then we're going to thread it through our yarn needle. And then we're going to just sew that hole shut using the front loops of that last round. Pulling it nice and tight, and then your dino body will be done. So just pull it through the front loops. Sew up that hole. Pull your yarn through. All right, there's your dino body. All right, for the tail, we're gonna start with our magic ring alternative. Oops. All right, and we're gonna be doing 8 single crochets.
for this magic ring alternative. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right. And then rounds 2, 3, and 4, we're just going to be doing 8 single crochets. I'm just single crocheting around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Make sure you remember to flip the piece. Then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, last time for round 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, for round number 5, we're going to be doing an increase and then 3 single crochets, and we're going to repeat that twice. So, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3. All right, now we're going to do 10 single crochets around for round 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, round 7, we're going to do 2 single crochets, then an increase, and then 2 more single crochets, and we're going to repeat that twice. So 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, 1,
2, increase, 1, 2. All right, round 8, we're just going to do 12 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Right. Round 9, we're going to do an increase and then 5 single crochets, and we're going to repeat that twice. So increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, round 10, we're going to do 14 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Right. Round 11, we're going to do 3 single crochets, an increase, and then 3 more single crochets, and we're going to repeat that twice. 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3. Right. Round 12, we're going to do 16 single crochets around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Round 13, we're going to do an increase and then 7 single crochets. We're going to repeat that twice.
So increase, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, increase, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Right. Now last round, round 14, we're going to be doing 18 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. All right, go ahead and end off with a slip stitch. Leave a nice long yarn tail so that you have plenty of yarn to sew the tail to the body with. And you can add stuffing. I like to add it when I'm sewing it on, just mostly down here in the end of it. And you're gonna leave it open. You're not gonna single crochet it shut. Leave it open. Alright, now we're gonna start on the 2 arms with our magic ring alternative. And for the arms, we're gonna do 10 single crochets in there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, and then for the arms, you're just doing rounds 2 through 7, just 10 single crochets around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then just repeat that until you get the length you want for the arms. once you get to your stopping point. If you want to, you can add a little bit of stuffing into the tip of the arm, just into like the bottom half. But otherwise, you're just gonna do some single crochets across the top. Normally I aim for about 5 single crochets is usually enough to close it off. Leave a tail for sewing. And then we're gonna repeat that again to make the second arm.
Next up is the legs. We're gonna make 2 of these. So we're gonna start with our magic ring alternative. And then in that second chain from our hook, we're gonna do 12 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right, now for rounds 2 through 7, we're just gonna be doing 12 single crochets all the way around. And then to finish off your leg, we're gonna finish, you can add a little bit of stuffing in it if you want to. Don't fully stuff it, just kind of stuff the end of it. And then we're gonna finish off by doing 6 single crochets across the top to sew it shut. Alright, and then leave a tail to sew it on. Now you have a leg, and we're going to repeat for a second leg.
All right, go ahead and grab your Tropical Lagoon Aqua Blue, and we're gonna start making these spikes. So we're gonna start with our magic ring alternative. And we're gonna do 4 single crochets in that second chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, and then I'm not going to use a stitch marker just because it's really tiny and it's really hard to maneuver a stitch marker when it's this small. Alright, so we're going to start with for round 2 we're going to be doing a single crochet and then an increase, and we're going to be repeating that twice. So single, increase, single, increase, alright, round 3 is going to be a single crochet and an increase again, but we're going to repeat it 3 times. Increase, single, increase, single, increase. All right, round 4, we're going to do 2 single crochets and an increase, and we're going to repeat that 3 times. So 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase, 1, 2, increase. All right, round 5, we're going to do 3 single crochets and an increase, and we're going to repeat it 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase, 1, 2, 3, increase. All right, and then we're going to go ahead, tuck that little yarn tail in, and then we're going to fold it in half. And then we're just going to do some single crochets across the top of it to close it off. Leave a bit of a yarn tail for sewing. And you have one of the spikes now, and we're going to make 5 more for a total of 6. right, let's go ahead and go on to doing the snout of our cute dino. All right. So to start our snout, we're going to start by making a chain of 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, and then we're going to start in the second chain from our crochet hook. And we're going to start right there. We're going to do 4 single crochets, so moving down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. And then you're going to do 3 single crochets in the next stitch. So 3 single crochets all in one stitch. 1, 2, 3. That's what's going to kind of turn our piece the other way. Now we're going to do on the other side of the chain that we didn't work. We're going to start 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to finish off this round with an increase. All right, now you should have a little oval. So then starting this next round, we're going to start with an increase. And then we're going to do 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3. Right. And then we're going to do 3 increases. So increase number 1. Increase number 2. Increase number 3. All right. Next, we're going to do another 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, and then 2 increases. So 1, and 2. All right. All right, to start the next round, we're going to do another 2 increases. So 1, 2. Then we're going to do 5 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to do another 3 increases. So increase 1, increase 2, increase 3, we're going to do 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then 2 increases to finish it off. 1, 2. All right. And then we're just gonna do 2 rounds of single crochets all the way around. Alright, once you get back to the starting point, go ahead and slip stitch to finish it off. Cut the yarn, and you've got your dino snout.
So let's go ahead and get the legs on there. All right, so for the legs, I like to kind of place them right by the arms. Kind of just straight down from the arms, so we're just gonna and they go about 4-ish rows from the top or from the bottom. So just kind of sew them on. And I just kind of do the same thing, like I said I do, whoops, every time, and just tuck it in, pull it out somewhere else on the body. All right. Let's get the second leg on. All right.
All right. Next, we're gonna move on to getting the snout onto our dino. So go ahead and attach the snout to your yarn needle. And then as we sew, we're going to be stuffing the snout as well. So just make sure that you keep that in mind as you're going. So the snout should be kind of placed in the center of your eyes like that. It should go all the way down. So what I like to do is hold it in place with my non-dominant hand, and then just while keeping my non-dominant hand holding it in place, I do the first couple of stitches just to make sure that it's not going to go anywhere, not going to change position or anything. It's going to stay right where I need it to. And then once I get a few stitches in and I know that it's not going anywhere, then you can move your hand. But I like to keep it until I've got like a good fourth of the snout on, just because I want to make sure it goes on evenly. Goes on where it's supposed to. So I like to keep it on for a little bit, but if it's really hard for you, then you can just do whatever makes it easier. Just make sure you're going in every single stitch, making them nice and tight. We want the stitches to kind of disappear into the, make it look a little more seamless, so. And then just as you're going around the eyes, make sure that you're getting it as close to the eyes as you can. Sure that you're going like literally right next to the eyes. That way it's as tight as you can get, or as close as you can get. Just keep going. I won't start stuffing it until I'm at least halfway done sewing it on. And to the point where I know just how much stuffing I'm going to need to add. Just kind of make sure it's keeping its shape as you go around. Your stuffing starts to come up, it's totally fine. You can just kind of clean them up a little later with some scissors or pulling it out. But and then, like I said before, we want the bottom of the snout to kind of be right where the head and body meet. So keeping that in mind, we're just going to make sure we go where it's supposed to be. We're not missing stitches or anything. At this point, I'm like 2/3 of the way done sewing it on. So we're just gonna take some stuffing and just little by little, we're just gonna add little at a time because we want to make sure that we get it sewn on nicely. But sometimes adding the stuffing just kind of helps give it shape. Makes it a little easier to sew it on instead of just sewing a flat piece on that you're trying to make 3D. So just do your best. Sewing the pieces on takes a little bit of patience and practice with sewing skills, so just do your best. Don't worry if it's not totally perfect. Especially with the bottom of the snout right here, because we're also going to be putting arms right there, so it doesn't have to look totally perfect. You're not going to see that part very much unless you're looking real close. Alright, so at this point I've just got a little hole left, so we're just gonna take our stuffing. Just the rest of it, and just try and get it in. Not try and get it in, but get it in the best you can all over and make it nice and even. Alrighty, and then when you're nearing the end, once you make sure that you have completely closed it off, I like to just take my yarn needle and insert it in, and then bring it out somewhere else, just to kind of help secure that yarn tail in. And cut the excess yarn off. Alright. And now your dino has an adorable little snout. Let's move on to the arms. Go ahead and grab your first arm. The arms are a little bit easier because we single crocheted them shut, so you're just sewing a straight line, you're not sewing in a circle, so it's a little bit easier to do a lot easier to do the arms. So for the placement of the arms, it kind of depends on what you want, but for ours, we're gonna kind of be going like right here on the edge of the snout. So I'm kind of lining up this end with this edge of the eye. And then it's gonna go just literally, again, where the head and body meet. And then you're just sewing using those single crochets we did across the top. So it makes it a little bit easier because you're just following in a straight line. Oops. And then once you get all of it, so then we're gonna do the exact same thing we did with that snout, just kind of tuck your needle in, bring it out somewhere else, just to really secure that yarn tail on. I like doing that. It just, especially if you've ever tried taking the parts apart, it makes it really hard because then it gets tangled on the stuffing, so it makes it a little more durable, but if you don't want to do that, you don't have to. All right, let's get the other arm on. All right, so same thing, I'm kind of placing it just right inside there, kind of on the edges of the snout. So with the arms, it's easy, you just stick it in because it's just a straight line. So definitely when sewing such small parts on, it can be hard to just get your fingers in there, so just do your best to get it on. It's your dino, so however you want it to look. If you need to change it, go for it. Do whatever is best for you. If your yarn gets in a knot like that, you can usually pull on the edges to get it to come off, or just keep going because we're gonna end up cutting it off anyways. So just know that it happens. You did nothing wrong. Sometimes the yarn just gets tangled and it's totally fine. So if the knot's making it hard for you to go into your stitches for sewing, then you can cut it off. But so I'm just gonna cut it off right there. And then since I already attached the whole arm and this was the very last one, the very last piece that I was attaching, I'm just gonna kind of use my crochet hook to pull it through a stitch. But right. Once you have both arms on, you're good to move on to the tail. So flip the dino over and grab your tail. And I'm just gonna grab a little bit of stuffing. And we're just gonna slowly stuff the end of it a little bit more, just so that it can kind of help support the weight of the dino. All right. And then attach it to your yarn needle. All right. So when attaching the tail, I like to use the spot where our yarn tail is attached. I like to use it for the bottom point of the tail. Just kind of helps it be a little easier to gauge. So I like to just kind of place it on first. We're going to be attaching it on the same row that we attached the legs. So go ahead and just attach it in the center. And then once it's attached, you can kind of play around with like exact placements and just do the exact same thing that you did with the snout and just hold it on. It's a little easier because it's like a cone shape. So it's a little more, it's already 3D instead of the snout where we had to kind of make it 3D. But just kind of hold it in place roughly, or if you want to, you can take like a yarn needle or something and pin like to help you hold it in place. But then we're just sewing it on. Making sure we're just keeping it going. In a nice circle. Again, if sewing isn't your strong suit, don't worry. Do your very best. Especially with the tail, we're going to be adding spikes to it, so if it's not totally perfect, don't worry. Sometimes with the more circular ones, I like to go every other stitch of the tail. Just because it kind of helps it not get too lopsided. But if it's working for you to do every single stitch, then you do you. You'll get better at sewing the more you do it. So just take your time. Make your dino look just how you want it to. Alright, and then same thing we've done on every other piece. Go ahead and insert your yarn needle somewhere. And then just bring it out somewhere else on the body. Cut it off. Alright. So at this point, you've got all of the major parts on your dino, you can kind of see where he's going, what it's gonna look like. Now we just have to add the embellishments or the spikes. So depending on how many spikes you made, I have 5. You can make more, you can do less. I like to just kind of map out where they're gonna be before I actually sew them. So based on the size of each spike and the size of your dino, like I'm probably only gonna be able to fit 1 right there, maybe 1 on the tail. So just kind of at least plan it out first a little bit and see where exactly you want them to be. And then I would either start with the spike that's going to go in between the head and the tail, or the one on the tail. I'm going to start on the one that's going on its back, just to make it a little bit easier. So then I can use that as my center point for it. So because the spike is longer than that, it's going to kind of be sewn on a curve, which is fine because these naturally kind of curve a little bit. So we're going to start it like 2 rows down on the tail. And then go up the back. Alright. Then with the spikes, I like to just kind of tie a little knot, especially with this one, just to kind of make it stay in place. And then same thing, we're just going to insert it, pull it out. With these ones, because it's blue, you just kind of have to be careful and making sure that you tuck all the little tails in and pull it out somewhere. So just kind of take your hook and tuck it back in and it's fine. Alright, once we have that main spike on, it's a little easier for us to position the other spikes. So I'm going to go to the tail spike next, just because there's just 1 on the tail. So again, tie it on, and then figure out where exactly you want it. So because they're triangles, I kind of want it to I don't want it right next to it. I want it a little bit away. So we're just going to start 1 row below where that one is tied. Where that one starts. Okay. And we're just going to go from there. Alright, depending on the kind of stitch you do while you're sewing, it may naturally kind of make a knot, which will be good if you can do that, just like a whip stitch almost, just because it'll secure it on a little bit better. Right. And finish off with a little bit of a knot.
Okay, and then once again, just take it and insert it somewhere where there's already blue. And then just pull it out. Right? Okay. Alright, now onto the ones on the head of our dino. Alright. So I'm gonna kind of start this one again with kind of the same idea, about one row up. And this one, it is round because it's obviously going up the back of the head. So just want to make sure that we're getting it nice and tight so that way it rounds, but not too tight. We don't want it to start curving too much. So just keep going all the way up. Alright. Go ahead and insert it, pull it out. Got a little yarn tail. You can always just take your crochet hook and tuck yarn tails back in. Alright. Now at this point, depending on where you've been placing your spikes, you may only have room for one more, you may have room for two. It also depends on what you want, so. Again, we're going to start by placing this one row above. At this point, I find it's easier to just set my dino up. That's why I like to do the tail and legs and all that first, because it kind of balances, so that way I don't need to try and hold them while I'm sewing. Right. All right. So if you were placing your spikes on your dino where I was, you should have one on the tail, one on the back, and two on the back of the head. So if you want to, you can add another one, and it would kind of just go right more on the front of the head like that. You can leave it just at the 4. It's totally your own preference as to whether or not you want that extra spike. So I'm gonna go ahead and add it. But again, your dino, you do however many spikes you want to do. Again, if you're doing another spike, same thing. You're just starting in the exact same place. One row away from the last one. And be careful when you're sewing it on, just because it does start, the head starts to go angled down again. So we just want to make sure that we're sewing our spike on very nicely so that it doesn't start to go wonky with how the dino's head is shaped. Alright, as soon as you get all those parts on, your dino is complete. Got 5 spikes, a tail, adorable little dino. Thank you so much for watching the Okie Dokey's crochet tutorial to make your very own dino. I would love to see the creations that you come up with him, and so if you would love to, I would love to see them. So please, if you post them, tag us at Okie Dokey's Crochet so that I can see them all. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see y'all next time.